Yes, and as mentioned, we will shift the language. Some of you, when you speak slowly and clear, I get some of the French. But some of you speak a bit fast. But it's anyway nice for me to be once again in France. I enjoy it each time. I've collaborated with French scientists over the last decades in insect pathology, Christina and others. And it's a pleasure for me to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me. I'll speak about natural enemies in insect production systems.
Can you put your mic
What?
closer? Yes. Put your closer.
Closer. Okay, like a rock star. Okay. Where are risks and how can we address the risks? I put the logo here on the left here, Society for Invertebrate Pathology. That's the global network or scientific community of scientists and companies working with invertebrate diseases. So this is our club or hub where we can develop the discipline of invertebrate pathology in all aspects, applied and basic aspects. And remember, several of us who works with it, we work with basic aspects. And when we speak about applied aspects, some of us work both with microbial control of insects. That's where the microbes are the good guys. And then we work with insect pathogens in production systems. Here are the diseases, the bad guys. Sometimes it is taxonomically the same species of pathogen which can be a good guy in one context and a bad guy in another context. Now, I'll speak a little bit about type of natural enemies and their importance, a survey of insect diseases in commercial production, challenges, diagnostic methods, and a case study, probiotics, insect diseases, European collaboration. So that's some of the things I will go through here. And these are three of our recent publications where we have summarized this. A joint paper in Journal of Insects as Food and Feed, and a book chapter, Natural Enemies in Insect Production Systems, in a recently published book. And below there's another book, Prevention and Management of Diseases in Terrestrial Invertebrates, in an upcoming book. So that's where we try to compile, and as Christina mentioned, a bit some sort of a global view of where the problems are, how to deal with them, and the research needed to progress. For example, here we try to list up, and we have in our book chapter, a long list of the natural enemies of the red palm weevil. We heard earlier this morning a talk about another palm weevil, but it's some sort of, some of these production insects like this one, but it's also a pest, by the way. You have both big vertebrate predators, birds, mammals. You have small arthropod predators, earwig for example. You have parasitoids, some flies, you have nematodes, you have phoretic mites, bottom left, which are not some sort of a disease or a predator, but anyways harming the insect. And you have some diseases, a fungus is shown here. You have also virus, microsporidia, and bacteria. So the poor insects, which are well studied, they have a bunch of natural enemies who may harm them in production, and we need to work with them. I am a little bit sorry, this is not entirely focused. I couldn't make it better, sorry for this. But these are characteristics of selected main taxa of natural enemies of insects, predators, parasitoids, and so on the list. What you may know is their mode of action. They differ, attacking prey from outside, killing, entering insect body openings, oral uptake. There are different standard ways they infect or attack, and there are. This is a general list, so you can find examples which don't fit onto the list. But some are mainly generalists, like predators, parasitoids are specialists, viruses are specialists, fungi and bacteria can be both, etc. And when we speak about the insect pathogens, right here they can be obligate or facultative, potential, specialists and generalists. And this tells a lot about how to deal with them and how they interact and how they can be seen also as food contaminants or not. The specialized insect pathogens like virus and some of the others, they harm the insect production, but they are of no problem, let's say, to human health or to you can say vertebrate husbandry health. It is a problem with the insects. Can they do harm? Oh yeah, they can do harm in the insect production. Insect virus can be responsible for the collapse in a production system. This is the cricket, the house cricket, which has a densovirus which frequently occurs. And actually there's an example in the United States where uncontrolled epidemics developed in production systems and they collapsed. The production system collapsed. They have to shift the production insect to another cricket species to avoid this. In other words, it tells us that when we use insects as husbandry, we may run into the same, you could say, standard problems as with other production animals, that just relying on one stock of one genetic pool can be risky. In this case, actually it was. And if we think about crickets, here's a list of insect viruses infecting crickets. It's already a long list, right? There are potential harmful other cricket viruses which may cause paralysis, disorientation, death, and with unknown effects. So there are potential problems to come up, unfortunately. And it's a bit like it's some sort of top of the iceberg in some ways, because what can we foresee, what cannot we foresee? We know what we know. We know some pathogens and other natural enemies, but some more will be upcoming. And if we have made some analysis of what happened with honeybees, it's some sort of every few years a new virus disease pops up, shows up in honeybees, and we have to deal with that. It could be the case with some of these production insects that even they seem damned healthy right now, they could still be some disturbing natural enemies to come later. What we did a few years ago, we made the first systematic attempt to collect information about insect diseases in production systems for food and feed. So we sent this form to the left to the companies we could get hold of, simply sent to, there are more companies now, but we sent to those we could get hold of these a few years ago and simply asked them to respond, and we promised confidentiality. This is very important. Some companies want to they don't want to share that they have problems, but okay, we can keep it confidential, but it's very, very important, listen companies please, that we share information and we will keep it confidential, but to get things in progress, it is needed that you're willing to share, at least with us or with other scientists, that you have, let's say, problems or something you don't know what is, and let's jointly work with that. We could, for example, here are some selected results from the survey. House crickets, they have different diseases in companies, they're known. Tenebrio molitor, the mealworm, well, they also have. And interesting below, the black soldier fly, it seems to be relatively healthy. We haven't heard so much about diseases in that species, and it doesn't seem to be that common, but we have heard recently that there are problems here and there with probably insect diseases. So it can be that black soldier fly we might have problems with that one as well. Here are some of the symptoms, and this also tells that what we need to do and how we need to work with it is to work with first of all, classical insect pathology methods. Diagnosis, what are the symptoms of the host? Really, really classical methods, and then we can move on like that. We have analyzed the production facilities and tried to characterize them in relation to the risk of transmission of insect diseases and predators. You can see this is closed production facilities, look very similar to some of the photos you saw earlier today, right? And here, predators are of little significance, at least the big predators, you can simply lock them out. They're not coming in. Insect pathogen transmission within facilities is likely to occur, and take care what you bring in and out of food, substrate, garbage in and out. There can be transmission. And then with these dense systems here, where we speak about tons of insects, some new transmission, some new dynamics occur. There's a high level of cannibalism. You can find giant mealworms where they have bitten each other in the legs. So you have a new route of bacterial infection into the production insects. So there's something, some new transmissions which are not, you can say, natural, or they do not occur in nature. Here we have semi-open production facilities there from Thailand, from crickets, and here predators, small and large, can be significant. It's some sort of semi-open, right? You can get something at least the small predators and also maybe some big. But transmission of insect pathogens within facility to occur, here you have a much higher potential range. On the other hand, then you can say the density of insects per area or cubic unit is a bit lower than in these trays here we have. So you can say the insects are in slightly less packed conditions. And then we have the outdoor production facilities up, that's honeybees, that's one production insect, and then we have Mopane moth in Zimbabwe down below here, and here everything can happen, predators, parasitoids, transmission of insect pathogens within hives, trees, cells, between facility and environment. This becomes really important here, the more we try to mimic the natural way of producing insects. So we have different types of insect production systems, with each of them having their own challenge. And of course the challenge is also depending on the specific insect we produce. But a typical situation is, for example, that company, they can come, it could be to us and somebody else, and say, what is wrong with my Tenebrio molliton culture? Some they get discolored, some die. Is it an insect disease or some saprophytes? Any action needed? And what we could do in this case, for example, well, the upper one is bacterium, unknown species. We should maybe work a bit further with that. The fungus Bovaria, we know that. That's an insect pathogenic fungus in the middle. And nematode has infected below. And the nice yellow one, bottom, is the healthy one, the uninfected one, how it should be. So this is how we can assist. And this is the way we collaborate with some companies. We got from a company, they had problems with giant mealworms. We get the product, the production stock, we look into it, and we have some information, and then we look about diagnosis. What is the larval cannibalism, and are there color change? Are there bacilli-like cells, yes or no? We characterize it, and you can see how they look melanized when they die. And then we move on, and we do some molecular things and microbial studies, and then in this case we made a small protocol for the company. Then one could say, well, what do we get out of it? What is it in for us? Well, one thing is that we want basically to support the industry. That's one thing. Another thing is, in this case also, we can get an access to study something which may lead to a scientific publication for us. So it's a win-win situation. Hopefully the insect pathogen will be the loser then, because we will battle it. We have recently, as part of the Invaluable project, which Lars Heckman will speak about tomorrow, you can look forward to his talk, a Danish project to initialize and get really settled on industrial production. Part of what we look into is probiotics in this context. Here are some definitions, and in this Invaluable project we have initiated studies to dissect mealworms, culture on selective medium for lactic acid bacteria, lactobacillus, identify and select candidates, characterize, etc., etc. So we move on to see how can we, or in which way can we use probiotics to a way to boost, you can say, the insect performance. I'm very excited about this and what we have seen so far, so I look forward to that we get further with that. It's postdoc Antoine Lecoq who is doing these studies. How much time do we have, Christina?
We still have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, excellent. We tend now to go really also for European collaboration. It was mentioned before that we need some sort of an action, coordinated action, and we are ongoing with that. And we means, for example, the INRA team, University of Tours, some Wageningen University, some British teams, German teams, and others. Our aim is, in the long run at least, to develop a European service of diagnosis on this, and collaborate with other research teams, also food microbiologists, which we do already, insect ethics and welfare, and network joint things, and with the European Federation of Animal Science. I'm in a board there, so we simply try to develop in this direction, and we made one EU application about a PhD study program, which we didn't get, but we will do it again, and next time we'll get it. It's our decision. One final thing is just to, I'm not going into detail with this, but just to show that in This is not production insects, but I'm very concerned about this nowadays, that people recommend, or some people recommend, that go out in nature, forage your insects, eat them raw, enjoy whatever type of life like that. Come on, no, don't do it. This is one example, ants with flukes. It has a complicated life cycle, this fluke here with a snail, ant, and vertebrate. And can you see up here about arrow number 7? If we eat raw ants, which are infected with flukes, and they're common, we see them commonly, these fluke-infected ants, humans can get infected, and husbandry too. Don't do it. They need to be cooked. Advice number 4, do not eat formica ants raw, and be very cautious when eating other insects raw. And this is a good example, by the way, that when we take insects into production, we simply spoil these complicated parasites. That's their life cycle. They cannot do this in culture. So in many ways, it's much better to have insects produced in culture, because we don't get these things here. 1 minute? Yep. I will not speak much about this, but this is merely to say that there are some sort of overlap between potential insect pathogens, potential harmful human pathogens, or at least something which is toxic or something. Sometimes some of these boundaries between types of microbes, they move a little bit, and there can end up with being some sort of overlap, at least with the fungi and bacteria. They are not in distinct categories: insect diseases, human diseases, saprotrophs. Some of them are flexible and opportunistic. So there can be possibilities that there's more to look into, and we're happy to collaborate also with microbiologists about that. So conclusions are here: many natural enemies, transmission of diseases, diagnostic methods needs to be developed in collaboration with industry, probiotics and joint European initiatives are being developed. These are some of the Danish projects part, some European. There are more European, just to mention a few here. And these are our nice donors, which we appreciate a lot.
Olé.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your presentation. It was great. Just to know if you already find some link between the contamination, like it can occur with mite, dust mite, or other species in the rearing, and if this contaminant will bring bacteria or viruses into the rearing. Did you find any link to that?
I need a microphone back, I think, right? We didn't look for it concerning mites, but I'm sure that some of these phoretic mites, they can obviously bring insect virus, because you just need very little, and they can actually be passive carriers of insect virus. I'm pretty sure about that, but we didn't some sort of study that. Then if you speak about some of these more opportunistic bacteria, Pseudomonas and others, sure, they can be transmitted via the substrate, and some of the population may act as opportunistic facultative insect pathogens. And for example, when you have the mealworms and they are a bit cannibalistic, there's an open entry into the hemocell, which is I think that one is really important.